Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we teach ourselves Tibetan. Because this week we watched Creature from the Pit.
Written by David Fisher.
Directed by Christopher Barry.
And aired in October and November of 79.
Yeah, that...
Slowly inching closer to the 80s.
And slowly inching closer to John Leeson's return.
Yeah, that's going to be a main point of discussion for this episode, is that John Leeson no longer voices K9, which we already knew. But...
Yeah, but K9 actually showed up in this serial for once.
And I don't think either of us was expecting what we got.
But yeah, this was written by David Fisher, who wrote our most beloved serial, Stones of Blood. And Androids of Tara, as well as the first draft of City of Death. I think he actually wrote this serial because he couldn't finish Serial of Death. They're like, hey,
Serial of Death,
City of Death. They're like, hey, you want to actually write a serial since you couldn't finish that one? He's like, okay.
And since you did such a good job on
Stones of Blood,
Stones of Blood,
Androids of Tara was decent.
Yeah, no, he's improving. It's better than the opposite.
Yeah, it's true. Watch him just tank. His next serial just sucks.
Well, we will find out.
Yeah.
So it starts with this guy getting thrown into a pit.
Yeah, it's without any explanation. They just chuck him into the pit and
in some forested area. I guess they're in the jungles of Dagobah, the swamps. No.
No, it's the forest moon of Endor.
No, it's definitely Yavin.
Great. But then it cuts to the Doctor and Romana in the TARDIS with K9 reading the Doctor Peter Rabbit.
Yeah, you hear an unfamiliar voice reading Peter Rabbit, and you're like, I wonder who the heck that is.
It's K9.
Like, oh God, it's K9. It's K9. Yeah. So, Christopher Brierley, I guess his name is.
Brierley.
Brierley. It's Brierley, probably.
Yeah, it's probably
David Brierley, not Christopher Brierley.
You're thinking of Christopher Barry, the director.
Yeah, probably. He is, unsurprisingly, not as good as John Leeson.
He's completely different.
He puts a lot of emotion into the K9 voice.
Yeah, I guess we'll just talk about this now. But yeah, David Brierley, first off, he didn't even want to do the role. He did it as a favor to Christopher Barry because they were close friends. And I guess he kind of got roped into doing it for the whole season because of that.
Well, because John Leeson wasn't coming back, for this season at least.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with the way the character was going, I guess, which seems to be a common complaint with actors not wanting to work on the show anymore.
Yeah.
But I think Jonathan Nathan Turner convinces Leeson to come back next season.
Yeah. And thankfully Leeson voices K9 in pretty much everything except
this season.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like one of those things where if this was K9's original voice, we wouldn't like John Leeson.
I think so. I think we dislike it so much because we're so used to John Leeson, and then they just threw this other voice in.
Yeah.
And it's not like a character you can just cast a new actor and be like, hey, it's a different incarnation, or it's like the second cousin twice removed. Right? It's like he's a robot. You would assume he would always sound the same.
Well, they try and write it in by having him get laryngitis or whatever, but that's a terrible excuse and a terrible plot point to accompany a terrible switch of actors. So there you go. At least we'll be counting down the weeks until John Leeson comes back, which is 3 at this point. So there's really not much to count down.
Sure, David Brierley's a very nice person, or was. I think he's actually dead. I think he passed away in 2008. But it's just not what we're used to, and we're just gonna be forever wishing John Leeson would come back, which he does. So,
right. So this is actually Romana shows up, and this is actually the first filmed interaction between the Doctor and Romana 2. Yeah. Since this was the first serial of this season.
Yeah, they kind of produced the first 3 serials of the season in reverse order.
Yeah.
I think it's because the Destiny of the Dalek script wasn't done yet when they started filming, but Williams really wanted it to be the season opener because, Daleks.
Yeah.
So they filmed them in reverse order. And it's pretty obvious that it's her first outing as Romana because her
Really?
character's well, to me, it seemed completely different from the previous two serials, at least for the first episode. She kind of fell into the groove after that.
No, I didn't see that at all. Maybe it's just one of those things where it's their first episode and you're like, okay, it's different, but I didn't notice too much different. Though I do think there are going to be changes to Romana's character as we go forward.
Yeah,
Maybe not within these three serials.
Next week's serial was produced after Destiny of the Daleks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean now it's all
now it's all nailed down, I guess. So they're messing around with the TARDIS console, and Romana's like, "Hey, what's this bit of the console that you just don't have connected?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, that's for receiving distress signals. From Gallifrey. I don't use that anymore. I don't need the Time Lords bossing me around." She's like, "Well, I'm gonna plug it in." And he's like, "Okay." So they plug it in. The TARDIS goes whack. Starts playing this loud, really annoyingly pitched tone, and the Doctor's like, "Turn it off." So they do, but then they land, I guess. I guess that whole randomizer subplot is just thrown out for this serial.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to use it that much at all, actually. Never get your hopes up with this show.
I think it was just a way for them to write in the Doctor not being able to pilot the TARDIS again without actually having the Doctor be a totally incompetent fool.
And also a way to rationalize why the Black Guardian just doesn't come after them.
Yeah, probably.
Didn't think that one through. Anyway, they land in the forest, and they're immediately presented with a giant eggshell that looks more like metal than shell once you actually see it.
Yeah.
Later on, they don't actually show it yet.
Well, yeah, they wander around for a bit, and the Doctor finds it and is like, "Hey, this is kind of weird." He discovers that the eggshell thing is what's actually emitting the distress beacon / annoyingly loud pitched tone.
Right, so they decide to go look for whoever laid the egg or whoever created it or whoever's sending the beacon.
Well, actually, Romana wanders off because the Doctor's investigating the egg, and Romana is like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go investigate for a bit," and she just walks
What
away.
could possibly go wrong?
She gets captured by the bandits.
Yep, there's some bandits. They seem to be the only other people on this planet other than Adrasta and her cronies.
Her cronies.
Her subordinates who had no lines until that coup. Look at her all.
Yeah, so the Doctor's trying to talk to him on, and he's like, "Oh, well, I guess you've gone and wandered off." So
Yeah.
he gets captured as well by Adrasta and the guards and the huntsman, I guess.
Adrasta and the guards and the huntsmen were the ones who threw the guy into the pit earlier.
Yeah.
I guess now would be a good time to mention the serial continues. The season 17 Douglas Adams, I guess, trend of more witty banter.
Being
my
more
favorite
humorous.
part. Yeah, my favorite part was in episode 4. Yes. Can you say anything other than yes? Yes. But now I think would also be a good time to mention that, and maybe you didn't notice this, but this was a big problem for me, that everyone seemed to be mumbling in this episode, actually. It was just episode 1, but there seemed to be a lot of mumbling.
No, I didn't. Wait, I did write down one note for episode 1. I wonder what it was.
Best be something about mumbling.
It was that the coat rack fell on the Doctor and the TARDIS kind of jolted.
Oh.
And I was like, "God, that looked like it was sort of painful, actually."
Yeah, that sounds kind of painful. Coat rack falling on you. But yeah, the Doctor's captured. Romana's captured.
Everyone's captured except
K9 is in the
K9.
TARDIS. Not speaking, thank God. No, it wasn't that
No,
bad.
yeah,
okay?
no.
It really wasn't that bad.
He still had that witty banter. It was just like, "Whoa, hey, K9, I'm not used to your voice. Slow down there."
As soon as we get used to it, we're gonna be back in season 8. Not back. We're gonna be into season 18, and we're gonna be like, "Oh, it's John Leeson. Wow." No. Anyway, we find out through dialogue that metal is super precious on this planet because there's
Like none of it.
yeah. and the bandits have this huge stash.
So the bandits seem intent on like collecting all the metal on this planet because it's going to make them rich, but then they never actually sell the metal, they just kind of accumulate it and never do anything with it.
Yeah, well, metal is power, I guess.
Adrasta still seems to be in charge,
Yeah,
though.
because she has like 20 times more metal than they do.
Well, Adrasta owns the mine, so you don't find that out till later, but...
Yeah. And they want to ransom Romana, but she's like, no, if you try and ransom me, Adrasta will come here and kill you and take all your metal. And they're like, oh, shoot, you're right.
But then she calls over K9 and they're like, whoa, Metal Dog, we're going to take him. She's like, yeah, right, and K9 just zaps him.
Yeah, they use K9 as an automatic weapon like 3 times in this serial. It's just Romana or the Doctor holding K9, gunning people down.
Yeah, in stun mode, though.
Yeah. Although he does stun mode, quote unquote, blast someone into the pit, presumably killing them. Because everyone who falls into the pit dies for some reason, even though the monster isn't killing them, you find out later. Maybe they're just like, oh shoot, gonna die. Anyway, might as well just commit suicide right here.
Yeah, because none of them found, what's his name, Organon?
Yeah, I guess they died from the fall. Come to think of it.
Probably.
But hey, if you survive the fall, you're A-okay. I mean, you find out the monster is pretty much harmless.
Yeah,
except when it kills Adrasta.
There's another way out of the pit, isn't there?
Well, it's locked at all times. The way into Adrasta's palace.
Well, anyway, so episode 1 ends when Adrasta's like, yeah, I guess we'll just throw you in the pit, Doctor, since you seem not to be helping us with this egg thing. And this would be a good way to threaten you.
Her scientists have investigated the egg, and the Doctor basically tells Adrasta that everything her scientists think is wrong. And she's like, what? I'm going to execute you 2 scientists. Which begs the question, why does she trust some random stranger over her own scientists?
Maybe because Organon predicted she was going to get a visitor from the stars, remember?
But she didn't believe that either.
Maybe that was referencing the ambassador and not the Doctor. That would make more sense.
Well, yeah, I guess. When was Organon was thrown in there like way before the start of the serial, so
yeah,
probably referencing Arado.
Yeah. So Romana shows up and is like, it's okay, I've got K9. He's probably one of the worst delivered lines of this serial. And K9's like, what's up? And then he gets trapped by some wolf weeds.
Yep.
And Romana thinks K9's dead, but it's not very convincing.
K9, you're dead.
Oh, K9, K9. Anyway.
Hey, not as bad as Mary Tam in like any of her final couple serials.
So yeah, before K9 got covered in wolf weeds, he blasted a guard, stunned him, but he got stunned but fell backwards into the pit, so he's dead. Then the Doctor's like, well, the serial looks like it's going south. See ya! And just jumps into the pit.
I'm out, guys.
He's like, you can solve this on your own, Romana. I'm out.
And then in one of the usual cliffhanger resolutions, you find out he's actually not dead, and he's just hanging on to the side of the pit, a la Mary Tam in Stones of Blood. Except this was actually really funny. I found the way he was holding on just hilarious, because no one would ever be able to hold on to a sheer wall like that, but it looks like he was just hanging on by like, and it looked like there was a little jutting out of rock, and he just had his grasp on that just completely and totally freely hanging, and able to keep himself up.
He digs a hook into the wall and then ties a scarf to that. He also pulls out a book, and then he's like, okay, and he's like, shoot, it's all in Tibetan. So he pulls out another book.
No, he wants to he wants to climb upright, so he pulls out the book like Everest for Dummies or something, and he's like, oh shoot, it's in Tibetan, so he throws it down the pit and pulls out.
Now, doesn't he just grab it with his other hand and then he pulls out another book that's like, teach yourself Tibetan? He's going to teach himself Tibetan and then read the climbing book in Tibetan.
Yeah, well, Romana looks down the pit and she's like, oh, you're hanging on, Doctor. Good job. And then Adrasta looks down the pit and doesn't see him at all.
Yeah, well, Adrasta just seems to be blind to a lot of things in this serial. Mostly the big coup that happens at the end. And the fact that Organon is still alive.
Well, yeah, the fact that Organon was still alive. But who could have possibly seen the coup coming? I mean, the Huntsman literally had no lines until he decided to take over the government.
Well,
I mean, Adrasta was dead, so what are you going to do? But it was just kind of funny when the doctor walked in. He's like, "Are you in charge now?" And he's like, "Yep." I mean, he was one of like 3 people in Adrasta's employ, so...
what are they even ruling over? The bandits clearly don't abide by her rule. And there doesn't seem to be anyone else on this planet.
Hey, you gotta have that metal monopoly. Maybe they threw everyone else into the pit. Maybe they actually had like a city or a compound and they just threw everyone into the pit. Wouldn't be surprised with Adrasta's character. Anyway, Adrasta has this servant lady. I don't really know what she does, but she becomes important right at the end, as did the Huntsman, so...
I think she's like a lady in waiting. I think the bandits thought Romana was like her status.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, the doctor in the pit finds this guy named Organon, who was the court astrologer, I guess.
Right. He was thrown in for predicting that Adrasta would get a visitor from the stars.
Yeah, apparently Adrasta didn't like that. Although maybe she was just trying to cover up the fact that the ambassador was from the stars.
Yeah, most likely.
But he survived somehow in the pit. He survives on like scraps of food that apparently get thrown down for Irado.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before, but there's a creature in the pit, hence the title, Creature from the Pit.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines was when Adrasta was like, "We call it the creature," and I think it was Romana's like, "Oh yeah, very original." And then maybe it was the doctor.
No,
like,
it was Romana.
Like, "Oh yeah, very original."
Yeah, which that actually happens like right now when Romana's taken back to Adrasta's palace, and they're gonna destroy K9 because he's made of metal. But Romana tells them that all the information about the egg is stored in K9's data banks, and if they destroy K9, they'll be destroying all hope they have of finding out any more about it.
Mm-hmm. So they cede to Romana. They decide not to destroy K9. Meanwhile, the doctor's talking with Organon, and he reveals that the pit it used to be a mine for all the metal, but then it kind of dried up, and then the creature got thrown down there, and now Adrasta just throws people down the pit.
Who presumably get killed by the creature, but the doctor wants to investigate, so he goes off in search of the creature. Well, actually, they see the creature first.
Yeah.
It comes out. Apparently, it looks super phallic. I guess maybe I wasn't paying attention or I didn't notice it, but I didn't see that. But it shows up, and Organon's like, "Oh no, it's the creature." It looks really bad, too. It's supposed to be like this giant green blob. It looks pretty terrible. Also, they keep referencing how it's hundreds of feet long, and I'm like, if you don't have the budget for it, you gotta change the script. It's not hundreds of feet long.
I think just in general, this whole season's budget just tanked, which is why the special effects seem like they got worse from season 16 to 17.
Well, anyway, the creature shows up. It doesn't harm the doctor or Organon. It kind of just goes about on its way.
Yeah, it just kind of just runs around the pit for a while. And the doctor goes into a room with it and gets sealed in, and then he gets smothered by the creature, and episode 2 ends.
Yeah, so we're like, wow, it really does kill people. Well, before that, the doctor's like, we better go investigate the creature, and Organon's like, I'm not doing that, you're a fool. And the doctor's like, okay. As soon as he leaves, Organon's like, wait, I'm coming with you. But yeah, that's how episode 2 ends, with the doctor being eaten alive.
Presumably. Then episode 3 begins with the creature just backing off, and the doctor's like, okay, thanks, mate.
So yeah, obviously the creature isn't hostile. It's Adrasta who's hostile, of course. Although the creature's moral standing is called into question later, which I liked.
The creature draws a picture for the doctor, and the doctor's like, where have I seen that before? And then it cuts to... Okay, so we forgot to mention, the bandits have this whole genius plan, according to them, where they think that because Adrasta now knows where they are, Adrasta's guards are going to come assault their little compound. So they decide they can assault the castle at the same time because the castle / villa / whatever will be less guarded than normal, which it will be, and it is, so that they can get all of Adrasta's gold / metal to replace all the ones they're about to lose from the guards attacking their camp, I guess.
Yeah, no, I thought they were going to bring all of their metal with them so they could keep the stuff they already had. I don't know.
That seems remarkably inconvenient.
Their plan was... I don't know if I want to say it was stupid, because it kind of wasn't, but
It's logical, but you wouldn't do it. But they do it anyway,
Yeah.
so... They also made a critical logical error in assuming the guards would be predisposed to attack their compound, which they're not. The guards actually are busy doing something else.
And they were also completely wrong in thinking the castle would be less heavily guarded, because from the moment they show up to the moment they leave, they're like, the guards are on our tail. The guards are on our tail.
It doesn't seem like it. It seems like Adrasta employed like 6 guards and she took 3 of them into the pit with her.
But yeah, then the doctor sees the picture that, what's his face? The creature.
Irado.
Draws on the wall, and he's like, I've seen that somewhere before. And it cuts to Adrasta's throne room, and that's where he's seen it before.
Yeah, it's right
same,
there.
It's the same emblem as she has mounted on the wall.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Adrasta's actually entered Castle at that point. I think it cuts to the bandits trying to steal that giant thing off the wall because it's metal. Because at this point, Adrasta has actually talked with Romana and she's like, hey, so K9 can kill that beast, right? Well, we're going down into the pit because I want K9 to kill it. Well, that's after Romana's escape attempt where she lifts K9 and just aims it at some guards and she guns them down.
Yeah, Adrasta has the sense to order her to point K9 towards the rock wall
From now on, yeah.
Yeah, so they go down into the pit. This is the other entrance into the pit that connects with Adrasta's palace.
Right.
And they need to break down... The creature has created another eggshell to surround itself, and K9 is supposed to blast through it, but he can't because it's self-regenerating.
Yeah, and then Adrasta's like, so all he's done is made it stronger. Thanks, Romana. But then
The
doctor just walks through it. She's like, what? How are you alive? How did you get through that wall? What are you doing here?
He's like, oh, I made friends with the creature.
She's like, what?
What was the creature's species called?
Something with a T.
Yeah,
The
oh god.
Tithonian.
Yeah, the Tithonian. She's like, what? You made allies with the Tithonian? I mean, creature?
Doc's like, mm-hmm.
You seem to know more than you're letting on.
But then
If that wasn't already obvious. But we also didn't mention that when the bandits pick up the little emblem, they get mind controlled and start heading down into the
for some
pit.
reason, that part's actually never explained.
Well, it's probably just, whoever touches the emblem is controlled into bringing it back to Irado through his psychic abilities, which begs the question, how did they get it off? But maybe that's where all their guards went. Maybe they sacrificed a bunch of guards trying to get off the little communicator emblem.
I don't think it needs to be attached to Irado to communicate, though, because...
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. So, like, what if someone just walked through, like, Adrasta's throne room and touched it and just started communicating with someone?
Well, then they would probably be thrown into the pit.
Well, anyway, so they bring it down into the pit, and Adrasta's currently threatening the doctor's life to get Romana to get K9 to shoot.
Yeah, it's this long chain of command and long chain of life-threatening. But K9's batteries are running out, and he doesn't have enough power to kill the creature, even if he wanted to.
Yeah, but then the bandits show up with the emblem, and then Adrasta starts screaming.
No, it's going to eat me. No.
Which it does.
And, yeah, it does, so her fears aren't misplaced. But, I don't know, Adrasta's actress was pretty good. I don't know her name, but she was really overacting in a show known for its underacting. So it was kind of...
Francis.
Right. So it kind of stood out, but hey, whatever. Don't do... never do a poor job just because everyone else is.
Is that your life motto? Pretty good motto. Especially with Tom on the show. So episode 4 begins with them putting the emblem on, and then they're like, what are we doing here? And then they just run away back into the castle to continue stealing other metal.
Yeah, no one really seems to notice the bandits once they start realizing that Arado can talk. And we've been calling him Arado, but this is the only time you find out that find out his/her/its name. I don't think it really has a gender.
The Doctor refers to it as he, I think, so.
I guess. Since it's actually just a giant... Never mind.
The Doctor touches the doorknob that's now attached to Arado, and it starts talking in the Doctor's voice, and he's like, whoa. So now we have like 3 minutes where they kind of try and figure out what's happening, and Arado just...
Even though the viewer finds out what's happening in 3 seconds.
Arado just tells them, yeah, I'm just using the Doctor's larynx, and the Doctor's like, okay. But I guess if you're holding the thing, you can't actually talk because Arado's using your larynx.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can still hear.
Yeah.
Must be a little weird.
Yeah. So
Arado explains the situation. He is an ambassador from... God, I already forgot.
Tithonius 4 or something.
Yeah.
This is Tithonian.
The Doctor actually deduced this before he, sort of guessed that the creature's green, it must need a lot of chlorophyll, and that's actually true. On Tithonus, they
have a lot of metal, but not a lot of chlorophyll.
And here on...
whatever this planet is.
Yeah. They have...
Chloris or something.
Yeah, it was Chloris. They have the exact opposite problem, so...
Oh, I get it. Tithonius, because, titanium.
What? I don't know. I don't think that's what it is.
I think it is. Because chloris, like chlorophyll...
Yeah, that one makes sense, but...
Nah.
I don't know. Yeah, he was sent as an ambassador to try and enter into a trade agreement, which...
Didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Because he met Adrasta.
Who threw him into the pit. This was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
She threw him into the pit for some reason. I mean, she wants to accumulate more metal. The mines have run dry. Yet she doesn't enter into the trade agreement. I guess we were discussing this actually before we started recording, and you said that it was because she wanted a monopoly on the metal, but she could still retain her monopoly because she seems to be the only one.
Well, I guess because it would be difficult to conceal an entire trade convoy coming from Tithonius of 100-foot-long green beasts bringing you metal.
I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me, but whatever.
Well, they have this argument for a while. The Doctor tries to explain the situation to the Adrasta's guards, who have wolf-weeded canine again.
Yep.
And the huntsman, who I guess controls the wolf weeds, I guess that's his entire job.
Yeah, he just whips the floor and the wolf weeds attack on
What
command.
even are the wolf weeds?
They're just little tumbleweeds.
So, Adrasta's like, yeah, none of that's true. Just kill the Doctor. And the huntsman's like, I think we should let him speak.
In his first line of dialogue, the huntsman's like, no, let him speak.
So she's like, okay.
The Doctor tells her off. And, yeah, into episode 4...
Well, the Doctor's like, so we can just have Adrasta touch this doorknob, and it'll come from her own mouth, and then it won't seem like I'm playing a trick. And the huntsman's like, okay, sounds good. And then he whips the whip, and the wolf weeds start attacking Adrasta's like, okay. So she touches it, and he's like, oh yeah, I was trade ambassador. Adrasta threw me in this pit, and I live off chlorophyll, and you've just been throwing me people, which is kind of useless to me. So the huntsman's like, well, Arado's like, if you excuse me, I think I have a score to settle. And the huntsman's like, yeah, us too. So they wolf weed Adrasta, and then Arado eats the wolf weeds and Adrasta.
Yeah, kind of a drastic. Hey, however much it sounds like I'd planned that, since when I watched the episode, I actually just came up with it right now.
Apparently Adrasta means from the stars or something.
In what language? Latin? Well, now she's
Dead.
Yeah.
She's dead, okay? She's dead. She's not coming back. So the doctor's like, well, looks like everything's fine and dandy. We've still got 12 minutes left in the serial, but we resolved everything.
I actually liked this, though, how you think it's about to be over, and you check the timestamp, and you're like, whoa, what's going to happen next? And it doesn't feel like Monster of Peladon, where they kind of just shoehorn something in. It feels like there's something... It feels like there's unfinished business.
Yeah, well, they lift Gerardo out of the pit, and the doctor's like, okay, so Gerardo's probably going to leave now. We'll probably all die or something because, he was stuck in a pit for 15 years.
Well, there's that whole scene where they cast suspicion on Gerardo, and you're like, whoa, is he not the victim he appears to be?
But there's a whole scene with the yes.
Yeah.
Can you say anything other than yes? And he's like, yes. When Gerardo gets out of the pit, but before he gets to his spaceship, remind me to return his stellar drive.
Right, because they want to question him, and because the doctor and Romana and pretty much everyone doesn't think he's telling the whole truth about his backstory. We also get the information from K9 that Tythonians can live up to 40,000 years, so 15 years in the pit was really nothing for him.
Yeah. How does K9 know that? Because it's implied that the Doctor never met the Tythonians before, and it's also that K9 was built by the Doctor. Only really has any information the Doctor's acquired in his journeys.
I don't know.
I guess it's just one of those really minor plot holes that
yeah
you shouldn't really think about.
So they decide to go question Gerardo.
He's hanging out the side door.
He can't fit into the palace, so. And he reveals that his people have launched a neutron star to destroy Chloris.
Destroy the entire solar system.
And the doctor's like, what? Why did you do that? And he's like, well, when Adrastus decided not to enter in the trade agreement, I sent the beacon back to my people to wipe her out.
Well, he said... Well, I think it was when he got thrown in the pit, he telepathically told his ship to send a distress beacon, and they interpreted that as an act of war, throwing him in a pit.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It wasn't that Gerardo just decided, hey, I'm in a pit, I'm just going to wipe out this whole planet, because it will wipe him out, too.
No, I thought that's what it was, but I guess not.
No, I'm pretty sure it was just his people thought that them throwing Gerardo in a pit was an act of war, which kind of is. And turns out they can't stop it because...
Yeah, the doctor's like, well, you can just send the signal to your people to stop the star, right? And he's like, well, it's been on course to this planet for a couple of years now.
He also says, like most stars, it doesn't have an engine.
They're like, oh yeah, good point. So they come up with this convoluted, incomprehensible plan to use.
No, it's totally comprehensible.
No, it's
no,
not.
It is.
No.
Gerardo's going to construct an aluminum shell around the neutron star.
You mean aluminium shell?
Aluminium, which...
We say aluminum here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Anyway.
So he's going to construct the aluminum shell around the neutron star, which, by some miracle that defies the laws of physics, will neutralize the gravity of the star, and then they can just change its course using the TARDIS.
Yeah, well, they explained it in such a way that made you wonder whether you were even sane anymore.
Well, before they can do that, Organon's supposed to be protecting the stellar, interstellar, whatever, drive thing, and then...
But an unknown assailant...
It's the lady in waiting. It's, like, really obvious. Because there's this chain of people overhearing other people. So the bandits overhear the doctor talking about the drive.
Yeah, the bandits are still there stealing everything.
And then the bandit turns to the leader, Torvin, and is like, hey man, we should steal that drive. And he's like, no, let's not be greedy for one more piece. And then the lady in waiting person overhears that and is like, I should steal that drive thing. So she does.
Yeah, she bonks, or what's his face? Organon on the head with like a chicken bone or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny. Earlier, Organon's eating something, and the doctor says that he's seen his horoscope and he's going to die of indigestion, and he just looks at what he's eating and he's like, shrug, keeps eating it. But yeah, now the lady-in-waiting person has the drive.
Yeah, it has a questionable sense of morality because she decides to knock out Organon, but then kills Torvin about 2 minutes later.
Hey, she has to assert control over the bandits.
By killing their leader?
Yes.
So you'd think that would just make all the bandits turn on her and kill her.
But it doesn't.
Because they, like, overwhelmingly outnumber her.
Yeah, but
And
she has the know-how / leadership ability to lead them to even greater riches. And the doctor shows up and he's like, you'd be willing to sacrifice the lives of everyone here and the entire planet just to get rich? And she's like,
the entire
yep.
planet, meaning all 7 of us in this room, plus the, 6 of us back at the castle.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she says yes.
So Doc's like, okay.
Okay, I guess I'll just destroy all your metal. K9? So K9 zaps all the metal out that they have there out of existence.
Yeah.
Well, you actually see a little pile of ash there, but the metal pretty much just dematerializes and then rematerializes as still metal but burnt ash
and
metal.
useless, and it's not really metal anymore. But it's kind of cruel of the Doctor. He's kind of blasting the entire planet back to the Stone Age. I guess he's also forcing them to.
Huntsman will be a great ruler. I'm sure nothing could go wrong there.
I guess he's forcing them to enter that trade agreement.
Yeah.
Well, so they enact the plan. The TARDIS console kind of blows up a bit. Wonder what the effects of that are going to be, if any. They'll probably just ignore it.
Yeah, no, they probably will. But they say they have no way of stopping the star, and
Well, because it starts pulling Irado in, and the Doc's like, oh shoot, because they can only activate the TARDIS gravity tractor beam for a little while before it starts ripping the TARDIS apart.
So they decide to
Do it anyway.
And dematerialize right before the star hits them. So they do that. They rematerialize back on the planet. The star's knocked off course. They're all safe. But then you see the star like hurtling through space, and you're like, it's gonna hit something eventually. It's bound to. It can't just travel through space forever. It's gonna destroy something, guys. You really fixed your problem. You fixed your problem by causing another one.
Maybe they'll get lucky and destroy an uninhabited something.
Yeah, pretty much every planet in this entire universe seems to be inhabited by some race or another. So,
Mostly humans.
Yeah.
And that's that. They talk with Organon for a bit, and then they leave.
Yeah, the huntsman comes in. The doctor's like, are you in charge now? And he's like, yep. Totally me.
And they have a trade agreement already, and yeah.
Organon makes some snarky comment at the end, and I forget what he said, but it's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, because the huntsman's like, oh, man, it's a trade agreement with the Typhonians. Do you know what this is, Organon? And he's like,
Oh, yeah.
yes. It's a trade agreement with the Typhonians. And he's like, how did you know that? And he's like, it was written in the stars. And then it ends.
Yep. So, despite all the
things that should have been working against this serial, like the fact that it was written by David Fisher,
I was going to say
the low budget.
I was going to say despite all our jabs against the serial, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, it was fun. There was it was more, not really corporate, I guess, espionage going on.
I was going to say it was more quirky. Because, I mean, you had Organon getting knocked out with what I can only see as a chicken bone, and K9 blasting people into the pit, which is pretty dark, and you had the tumbleweeds, and the bandits were great. I loved the bandits.
And K9 just sounding like a butler. That's all I could imagine this whole serial, is that now instead of sounding like a robot dog, he sounds like a butler. Trust me, next week, you'll be like, hey, he sounds like a butler. Now that I've told you that.
Okay, we'll see.
But they did some decent model work at the end with the TARDIS and the gravity tractor beam and the star and Irado's ship for the budget that they're clearly working on.
It looked like your generic little graphic you would see on this show. It really didn't look like anything special.
It's probably where they blew all their budget for this serial, considering everything else. I'm assuming they shot the forest on a soundstage and they didn't actually go out into the forest.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they didn't go out into a forest.
I I don't know if we actually ever revealed this, but the egg at the beginning, yeah, that was Irado's ship. I think
Well,
we actually
we
didn't
heavily
say that.
implied it because I mean, he can create his own ship. He can create the quote unquote eggshell. So that's what it was, which he did. That's how he was keeping Adrasta and Romana and Canine out.
Yeah, when he was talking with the doctor.
Yep.
So, all in all, pretty good serial. The season's still off to a pretty good start.
Yeah,
We're about halfway through the season now, I think.
Yeah, we're halfway through, and I can only assume that it's all going to fall to pieces next week.
You're just going to constantly be assuming that it's going to fall apart next week. Watch us get to the end of a season and it actually be a decent season.
Yeah, if you keep your expectations low, you'll never be disappointed.
I mean, that's true, but...
Well, we still have Shada to
contend
quote-unquote
with.
look forward to. I don't think we've ever actually talked about it on recording yet, but yes, we're watching Shada.
Yeah, we've decided we're going to... Yeah. That unfinished written by Douglas Adams thing.
That was supposed to be the season finale of this season, but was never finished due to
I think
a strike.
Yeah, an actor's strike. So yeah, that'll be coming at the end of the season in its rightful place. Forming
Taking back its rightful place in history. No, I don't know. So I can only guess that that's going to be as akin to watching Reconstruction as we're ever going to get again.
Maybe. I think, well, the version we have, we'll talk about this more when we actually get there. The version we have was acquired totally legally, is animated. We'll talk about that more when we get there. It makes more sense in context. But other than that, Creature from the Pit, pretty good. Not the best serial of the season, but pretty good.
No, this was my favorite so far.
Really? I liked City or Destiny better than this, but it's still good.
I would put this side by side with City. Destiny, I feel, was a little bit worse, which isn't to say it was bad, but...
Yeah. Well, that
that kind of
wraps it up.
Yeah,
so email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, anger, rants, love letters. Your thoughts on the creature.
Hey, we don't use racial slurs on this show. It's a Tythonian.
Wow. Okay.
Completely disregard the Swampies, though. Anyway.
Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you liked the show. Yeah.
Also check us out on Facebook, unsurprisingly, also at Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next week we watch Nightmare of Eden. But until then, the end.